If you're an elderly person and you're immunosuppressed, there are some other things that you should be doing now. So when I say this, some cities and rather some countries are already doing this much more aggressively, but here in the U.S., we haven't really, there's not a whole lot of restriction there's some self-limit, there's some quarantine issues that people are self-quarantining. There's some quarantine issues of cruise ships where people coming in from cruise ships are being quarantined at specific military bases. But that's the extent to the limitation of movement that we have right now in this country, but it could get worse. And so right now, everybody's free to travel. Everybody's free to hop on a bus, a train, a plane, etc. But if you are immunocompromised, you should absolutely not be doing that. So you should be restricting any kind of travel where you're in a place where there's a lot of people, a lot of sharing of germs. So like an airplane, an airport, a bus station, a train station. So think planes, trains, and buses. And if you want to do travel, a car travel would be okay, or probably the safest route if you're driving your own car, right? But the others, planes, trains, and buses, where it's a stronger possibility of communicable spread of disease, you want to really try to look at eliminating that right now if you're immunosuppressed. Again, this is if you're immunocompromised already. And what does that mean? Let's talk about what it means to be immunocompromised. So raise your hand if you're taking a steroid. Because if you're taking steroids right now to control an inflammatory condition, guess what? You are immunocompromised. Raise your hand if you're taking allergy medicines chronically on a daily basis, no matter what season it is. If you're doing that, you're immunocompromised. So again, any of you that are taking biologic medications for autoimmune diseases, things like Enbrel, those types of drugs that suppress the immune system, you're immunosuppressed. So if you're taking medicines that suppress the immune system, then, my advice to you is to stick to what I'm talking about here. Additionally, I know this is going to sound like a broken record, but hygiene is important. Now, although we know that the pasteurization, or the kind of the germ theory of disease has been proven, but it's also been disproven, and not really disproven, but it's been shown that we need some germs, right? But it's also been it's been shown that too much hygiene or being too clean can actually contribute to diseases like autoimmune disease. But as it relates to a viral infectious disease, we want good hygiene practices. We need good hygiene practices. Otherwise, again, you increase that risk for spreading. So this is, the simple stuff, hand washing. I don't think that those Purell gels, those dry gels that people use to wipe their hands out with, we actually studied those in graduate school and compared to see whether or not they suppressed the growth of germs, and they didn't really do all that great a job. So soap is probably your best bet if you're looking at what to use. Just use good soap and really, really scrub down. Soap has, got to understand the outer shell around the bugs, the viruses, the bacteria, etc. It's a fat-based lipid bilayer or lipid layer. And so what soap does is it breaks that down, so it exposes that virus or that bacteria. And that's what helps to kill it and disinfect it. So using soap adequately, some people just kind of give it a little tiny dab and then mostly water. No, use that soap very liberally right now, and make sure that you're scrubbing your hands down, especially if you're out touching public doorknobs in public places, or shaking people's hands like and I would advise not even to do that, really not shake people's hands right now. But a lot of hygiene goes a long way for protecting yourself. Again, especially those of you, we're talking about people here in number 5 who are immunocompromised. Okay. So what else can we do? Avoid large crowds. Don't go to the movie theater. Don't go shopping through the mall if you're immunosuppressed. Just really get fresh air, walk outside, but don't walk in walk in open spaces, parks, things of that nature. Again, weather permitting is the best thing that you can do. But stay out of closed spaces with lots of people. Another thing that you can do, and this is going to be unique to who your doctor is, but ask about nebulized glutathione. Now, some people take glutathione orally. Oral glutathione doesn't work that well. It doesn't absorb, and that's its problem. Even some of the sustained release formulas don't really absorb very well. So you can take NAC. I did a whole show on the super viral fighting power of NAC, and this is a good idea, especially if your doctor won't entertain the idea around nebulized glutathione. Let me put that word in here, nebulized. What this is that some people do nebulized steroid inhalers, so they get steroid treatments into their lung with severe asthma, and it just kind of calms down the inflammation in the lung. But you can actually nebulize glutathione. Now, this is not me medically telling or suggesting that any of you go do this without supervision. Be very, very clear about that. This is one of those things you got to get a prescription for it, and so ask your doctor about it. A nebulizer is simple. You can find one of those. You can buy those on Amazon, but you can't don't just go buy glutathione over the counter and put glutathione in a nebulizer and then start trying to nebulize yourself. Like, you really want to get the right kind. And so this is where getting the right type of prescription can be very, very helpful. So if you're immunosuppressed, again, you might have a conversation with your doctor about nebulized glutathione as a backup plan for home use. Should you start coming down with something, it can be a very effective way to get the strongest antioxidant your body produces into your lungs to protect you from things like the pneumonia aspect of coronavirus, because that's what most people who are passing, they're dying from the pneumonia. The secondary side effect or the secondary consequences of late stages, they're already immunocompromised. Many of them are, not all of them, but many of them are. And it hits their lungs, and it basically creates a problem in the lungs. So glutathione is very protective of the lung. And so again, have that conversation with your doc, because it might be something that you can consider doing or having at home for home use. Okay, so those are for those of you who are immunosuppressed. Now, the last thing here, let's talk about, and I've done a deeper show on this, so I'm just going to kind of give you the overview on this one in number 6, but it's nutritional support, right? Take care of your body. Get the right nutritional support supplementation right now. And so my favorites, we've talked about, I did a full show on these. This is what New York Times, or not New York Times, but New York Post and Business Insider lied about and censored me about. But vitamin C is a must. Vitamin D, vitamin A, zinc. These are like super important vitamins, minerals, and then we have things like NAC, N-acetylcysteine. There are other things certainly that you could add to this list, but if we're looking at what I would recommend the most in terms of like individual supplements that you can take, this is where it's at. Now, other things that you might want to consider in this regard for nutrition is making sure you're getting adequate protein. A lot of people, especially the elderly and especially the immunocompromised, are eating a low-protein diet because they've been told that a low-protein diet may be the right move for them. And what happens is their protein levels drop. Remember, all of your antibodies are made from protein. So if you're not getting adequate protein on a day-to-day basis, then your body's ability to perform antibodies is going to be somewhat compromised as a result of not getting that protein in you. Now, something else that you might want to consider supplementally right now is a good probiotic. The probiotics are not going to fight the virus per se, okay? But as I mentioned earlier, one of the side effects or the secondary issues is bacterial infection. So probiotic will give you kind of a support in terms of that risk for developing that bacterial infection. And then one of the other things that I'll mention, just as a general rule, is strong antioxidants. So really strong antioxidant supplement. And I'll put that up here. Or just foods that are really rich in antioxidants. And so what foods are really rich in antioxidants? Things like, for example, berries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. The good news is we're coming into summer, spring, and so these are becoming more available locally. They're starting to come in. I know my bushes are all starting to flower, and many of them are starting to form berries already. So, you want these things naturally as much as you can get them through food, but it's not a bad idea to have that in your arsenal of supplementation either, because when the viruses take hold, one of the things that happens is they can wreck your antioxidant system because they create so much oxidation in the body. And so those antioxidants can help kind of work like a mop or a sponge to soak up that free radical damage and keep your body as healthy and as vibrant and as strong as it can be. So these are kind of my go-tos. And again, I did a show I actually did a couple hours on all this. So if you have that link to our resource page, the coronavirus resource page that we've created for you, you can go back and watch those videos if you have not yet seen them. And I go into really great depth about, how much to take, how long you should take it, age groups, which age groups take and how much to take. So those are the strategies. That's my prepper's guide for coronavirus. So hopefully all of you are working all of these 6 angles to a great degree right now and getting prepared for the worst. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully all this just blows over and we laugh about it in a year or two from now. And we say, oh yeah, that was just another viral scare that really didn't impact us. But again, like I said at the start of the show tonight, failing to plan is planning to fail. So don't let the panic come to your house. Just get ready for it now. Hey, don't forget to check out the rest of the series right here. Make sure you hit subscribe below. And as always, thanks for tuning in.